Welcome to How to Run a Successful Business and Still Have a Life. My guest today and I have a lot in common. We both love inspiring women in business to create the lifestyle of their dreams. We both have pivoted and adapted our own businesses to suit a changing landscape and our own stages of life. And we both we're both loving dog mums to gorgeous fur balls called Benny. I'm so thrilled today to be chatting to the wonderful Lisa Messenger. Lisa, welcome.
Thanks, Stacey. And I know we just said we've both got our bennies at our feet at the moment. So, and yes, we do have a lot of other things in common other than our love for our dogs.
Absolutely. So, Lisa, tell us, you're joining us at the Simply Business Summit in Byron Bay. We're so excited to have you. Why do you resonate with this particular event and why are you excited to come and join us?
Well, it's a no-brainer. Firstly, for many reasons. I mean, it's like as soon as you say the word business, as soon as you say the word women, as soon as you say Byron Bay, all of those things excite me immensely. I'm currently living, as you know, 15 minutes from Byron, so I'm down there every day. But I think what you stand for and what you're doing is so important, and it's such a love language and a passion of mine. This is my 22nd year in business, and I am learning all of the time. I'm making all of the mistakes. I'm failing fast every single day, and I don't have it all together, but I've certainly walked a lot of different paths. And I think this is so important because there are so many people who feel like imposters, or they juggle motherhood, as I'm about to do, and trying to run a business. And a lot of what I speak about and a lot of what I think we'll cover together at the summit is things around mindset and purpose and, how to actually create a path and, a way to move forward, because a vision is one thing, but without action and, the next logical steps, then it can fall in a heap. So I'm just there to support everyone, and I'm so excited to do this alongside you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying that. Oh, I'm so filled up. You talk about failure and you talk about falling down and failing fast, and you have a reputation for being really flexible and adapting quickly to change. Can we talk about the development of Collective Hub, the magazine that you started when everyone was turning to digital, yet you pushed forward and with great success? What gave you the confidence to really trust your gut in those moments when you had all of, I'm sure, naysayers saying, "What are you doing? This is not the best idea." Where did that confidence come from to really trust that you did know what you were doing and you could go ahead and build this global brand against so much pushback?
Thank you. And I think this is, from the sounds of it, everything I've read about you, what you're doing, Stacey, I feel like we are very aligned on this. And I feel like what happens is people see the success or the perceived success, and then often this thing creeps in where it's like, but I'm not good enough, I don't know what I'm doing. Well, here's the secret. As I said before, a lot of the time none of us actually know what we're doing. What set me up for success around that, so we need to put it into perspective. I launched my first business October 22nd 2001. I didn't launch the magazine until February 2013. So I often say, it's like an 11 or 12 year overnight success. And what I really love is that I now help other people to hopefully, I share stories. I'm very real, raw, authentic, vulnerable, all of those things to hopefully help people, fast track and not be quite as slow learner as I was. But what set me up finally for success was I'd spent many years over servicing, undercharging, being everything to everyone. And finally, I'd had a lot of business acumen by then and kind of a lot of failures under my belt. But the reason that something finally worked wasn't that I was the smartest person in the room or that I actually knew what I was doing. It was because I got my mindset into gear. I learned how to, have this unwavering self-belief. That took a lot of years of therapy and understanding my triggers and my inadequacies, or what I perceived that I was inadequate about. And so really, I can say this for absolute certainty, because I've now done it in several areas in life. If you know what your purpose is or what your why is, or you have this thing that you hold so sacred and you know kind of where you want to go, it's actually extraordinary how the how takes care of itself, really. And I use these words a lot. The serendipity and the synchronicity and what happens as a result can be quite extraordinary. So to put that into perspective, and this really will help people, I hope. It's a very well-trodden or well-told story. I'd never worked in media. I'd never worked in magazines. It was at a time when people said media and print magazines certainly were dead or dying. And I was entering a highly saturated industry. So everything was stacked against me. What was in my favor, and really the only thing in my favor, which any one of us attending your amazing conference or anyone listening to this, if we tap into our purpose and our passion and what's driving us and the end result, then it is extraordinary what happens. And that is why Collective Hub worked. And, that magazine, going from an absolute standstill, was in 37 countries within 18 months. Within 14 months, I had this email from the office of Anna Wintour. Anna asked me to go meet with her in New York. I've since shared a stage with Richard Branson 5 times and all these other things. And also, I nearly lost everything in 2017. So, which I love, because it's from those failures and those setbacks and that adversity that we actually learn. And so I really welcome those things now. And that's been a massive reframe and something that I'm really keen to dig into with you, at the conference and talk about, how do we do this?
I love it. The confidence that you must have had to follow that why and to follow that passion. You would have needed an equal amount of confidence at the other end of the journey when you chose to close the magazine. How difficult a decision was that? And where did you find the gumption and the bravery and the courage to say, I know what this feels like. I stand by how it feels, and this is the decision I'm making. Because again, it would have been a situation where people would have been saying, I know I definitely was. I remember where I was when I purchased the last copy. I had breakfast at the same cafe this morning that I sat and read it from cover to cover, the final episode, because it resonated with people. I can't imagine for you, it was an easy decision to say it's time.
It was an excruciating decision that I wrote an entire book about risk and resilience. It wasn't easy, but you're absolutely right, Stacey. It was, I often say, in equal measure, the courage it took to start the magazine and take that leap into the unknown was absolutely the same amount of courage required to make the difficult decision to close the magazine. But, it was a really smart thing to do. And I think a lot of times in business, and this doesn't matter what size you are, it doesn't matter if you've got a turnover of $20,000 a year or $20 million a year, really, it's very much around, if your business isn't sustainable and it's not future-proofed, or it's not lighting you up anymore, or you're not still on purpose or feeling like you're in alignment, or what I call you feel in flow as opposed to walking through mud and every day is difficult, then it's really important that we do make the courageous decisions to let something go or to close it down. So the thing about that is, it's not just as easy as saying, oh, well, that didn't work. Because at that time, as I just said, I had a physical print magazine in 37 countries. I had a big staff, we had a lot of fingers in a lot of pies, so it wasn't easy to extricate from. However, what I knew, and this came from the absolute unwavering inner self-belief that I'd culminated over many personal work, is that if I could do it once, I could do it again. And if my true purpose was, as it is, to ignite human potential, I could not do that when I was going home every night and curling a little ball, crying on the bathroom floor. And I am the only one to blame. I didn't set up the right systems and processes. I didn't have the right data driven, implemented by my side. And this is something really important that I'd love to talk about, at the summit conference, which is that we really need to recognize what our strengths are. Like, I'm a great founder. I'm not necessarily a great CEO. I'm a great creative. I come up with 30 different ideas, every hour. So I need someone beside me saying, no, stop, don't do all of that. So this is what's really important in business as we grow, or in life. Like, who are those people that we can surround ourselves with that are actually going to support us in whatever it is that we're trying to create?
It's like you've got a copy of my questions, which you don't, Lisa. I didn't send these to you beforehand. My next question was about systems and tools. And you've just said it so beautifully. You have to set up your business for future proofing, but then you also have to be able to pull yourselves out of the part of the business that you're not good at, that doesn't light you up, that's not your zone of genius. I actually had a coaching client yesterday who said, I'm doing the invoicing and I hate it. I said, well, why are you doing it? And she said, well, because no one else can do it. I was like, really? Interesting. Talk to me more about that. I think so many small business owners think because they've been doing it, this is how they've been doing it for so long, this is how it has to be done. And they don't lean into that zone of genius and that area that they're good in. And I love that you are so clear on what that is for you. And I'm similar to you in that I love coming up with ideas. The execution of those ideas, can someone else do that? Because I'm busy thinking about the next thing that I would like to do. So I think in order to be successful, those systems need to be in place, and you have to have the right people in positions to execute in their own zone of genius so that, the business can move forward and you're not kind of the gas and the brakes at the same time.
Oh, yes. So I might just elaborate on that a little bit more, because I know there will be people coming that are all different stages and phases of business. And what often happens is, it's all very well when you and I talk about it and, we have teams and all of these things. When you're a solopreneur or you're just starting out, or you're, a one-person band, you do have to come up with the ideas and the product development and, the supply chain and all of whatever it is, whether it's product or service. And then on the other side, you need to, look after the budgets and the timelines and make sure that cash flow and profit and loss. And then you also need to look after, the sales and the marketing and the distribution and all of those things, right? So when any of us are starting out, and by the way, this is the same for me. If I'm starting a new, business or a new part of the business, it's like we go back to stage one. So it can be very overwhelming because we're like, well, which bit do we start with? And as you absolutely said, something that I've learned over the years, and I teach as well, is that, what seems impossible and you're like, but I have no money, I can't possibly afford a bookkeeper, or I can't possibly afford someone to do this. But I know for sure there are certain things when I'm feeling passionate and I'm in my genius zone and I'm great at them, what I can do in an hour, like my output and, is extraordinary when I'm in that zone. If it's something that I do not enjoy and I'm not particularly good at, it's going to take someone an hour. It's probably going to take me 10 hours. And so I am the queen of outsourcing. I'm like, and this is, I think, an important reframe, and that's what you're alluding to. It's like, well, if you need to pay someone else, I don't know, $40 an hour, $100 an hour, whatever it is, but they're great at it, and it frees you up to be in your genius zone where you can probably 10x that in the same hour because you're really great at it. That's the decision you need to make. So I think that's super, super important. And also, I've written an entire book on this subject called Money and Mindfulness, which is about there are more currencies than cash. And this is something I feel so passionately about, particularly when people are starting out. And even now, I always go, okay, well, if you can't afford that extra help, and I do this with a lot of my mentees at the moment, like, okay, are you great at designing a website and someone else is great at writing copy or taking photos or something else? Like, swap, skill set swapping. What can you help someone else do and what can they do? And the exchange is either energetic or skills as opposed to cash. This is a way that we can feel supported, and we can lean into our own strengths, and we can get help without having to pay physical dollars until we're able to.
I love that concept. And reading Money and Mindfulness was the first time I'd really thought about the way I was structuring my business and how I was always really worried about money and really worried about the cash flow and where it was going to come from. And then I read your book and I was like, oh, there's more currencies than just cash. Oh, I can do this and I can do that. And it made me really reframe the skill set that I had and how I can use it to help others, but also then get things done in my business too. What I love about the variety of books that you have, Lisa, and one year I just bought an entire package from your website of, I think, maybe all of the books that you had written, maybe double. And then I gave them to my staff for Christmas presents because there's such a variety. Like I gave somebody Daring and Disruptive. I gave somebody else who, I knew needed help with money and mindfulness. And then someone who was, really in the thick of it, Risk and Resilience. Like it was a beautiful way to spread out your message and the different messages that you have to my entire team. And I know they got so much out of it as well. But I find that the messages that you have in the books that you write, it feels like it comes authentically from you. Are these, in writing your books, because you are a best-selling author, do you have a list of ideas that you think, oh, this year I'll write this one and this year I'll write that one? Or does it come to you organically and you say, actually, there's so much here, I need to get it out on paper and get it out to people? Which way does that inspiration work?
So I'm a little bit of a little weirdo in terms of most people become the guru of something, and write a book and then write a book about it. But I love using myself as a human guinea pig. So I literally come up with, so for example, at the moment, as you would know, we are going through surrogacy and we have a baby boy due shortly after
exciting.
After the conference/summit. Are we calling it a conference or summit? I think we're calling it a summit, actually.
We call it summit, but only because, and you might want to weigh in on this, the term conference for so many small business owners seems out of reach. They would hear the word conference and think, well, that's for legitimate business owners, whereas I've just got this little business of mine. And that's not true, obviously. So many people in business are running very legitimate businesses, but it's hard for them to acknowledge. So we chose Summit because it sounded a bit less hotel boardroom kind of big stage. Summit is a bit more intimate, which is what the event is. It's a bit more low key. It's by the beach.
I like it.
Yeah. So we are leaning into the summit, but it is essentially a conference, but we just don't use that word in case we scare people off, which we don't.
Yeah. Obviously. No, amazing. So in answer to your question, I really don't. It's almost like quite counterintuitive how I write books. So so at the moment, we're going through this extraordinary journey of, having one of my best friends of 12 and a half years carrying our baby boy. And so, I've kind of, as I go through that, I'm like, I can't help myself writing every day because I'm like, oh, and then this happened, and then this happened. So I put myself in something and I'm like, oh, I've got to take people on the journey. And it's the same with, that book series that you're talking about. Daring and Disruptive really was the first 18 months of Collective Hub as a print magazine being born. So that book is all about, entering a highly saturated market, how to, do more with less, how to how to look at international distribution. So I'm the learner as I'm writing. And so I think that's where a lot of people are like, your books are so relatable. Oh, I feel like you're me. And I'm like, I am you because I'm learning as I'm writing. And it's a really fun way to do life because it challenges me, because not only is it keeping me accountable because I've got to learn this because I want to step into this. I'm like, at the same time, I'm like, and I'm probably going to have this book read by, I don't know, 100,000 people or whatever. So I'm like, okay, I really need to lean into learning this so I can write about it. So I've just fallen in love with it. Why I call myself a little weirdo. And it's again, another, anything's possible. At school, I did what was very unceremoniously called, and I'm sure it would be completely illegal and definitely not PC to say it anymore, veggie English. That's what they called it when I was at school. It was like for the really, stupid people who couldn't read or write. I was in that class, right? And now I think I've written 36 books.
Right.
One of my books in Australia has sold over 200,000 copies alone. And now we're in, I was living in the US most of last year, and now our books and journals are in 40 physical states in the US. So, so I'm like, there you go. Anything's possible. This little weirdo
possible.
Veggie English went on to be a best-selling author. So go figure.
Oh, it just speaks to your message of, inspiring people to understand that anything's possible. And if you have the passion and if you have the drive, then you can make it happen. No matter your humble beginnings.
So much of it is about mindset. I really believe now that everything begins with mindset. Like, I'm really not that smart at a lot of things. What I'm really great at, which I think is, you know, one of the number one things that an entrepreneur or business owner needs to be, is a great problem solver. So it's not that I necessarily know a lot of the answers, but I know how to ask the right questions. And I think that is something that is so important, because that way I kind of figure most things out, because I just keep asking until, you know, I find a way. And I've proved that over and over again. And in fact, I'll talk a lot about that probably at the summit, because people will be like, oh, well, you know, it's important to be able to utilize those skill sets across multiple different places. And so, you know, I've now done it in business in several different pivots and iterations. And, you know, I've done it a lot in crisis mode around floods and bushfires in Australia. And now I've done it in finding a path to have a baby. So it's like, it's the same skills that I've honed over the years, and the same kind of emotional intelligence that I've utilized to figure out things and ask the right questions across multiple different, you know, disciplines and things that have happened to me, for me, in my life.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's going to be something that continues through on your journey of motherhood as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
congratulations. I must say, when you first, you did tease it beautifully on social media. I've got big news to tell you, I think the next day or the day after. And I was thinking to myself, please make it be a baby, because I've followed your journey and, you know, hoped and prayed for you to be able to have everything that you wanted. And so when you made that announcement, the first thing I did after going, yay, was go, oh, where's the calendar? Like, how is it going to work with my summit? And so
Well,
it works beautifully.
well, you guys are my very last speaking gig for this year. So yeah, and for the foreseeable future. So I think that's another reason, you know, people should really come along. And yeah, I mean, he could be born any day from the conference onwards.
Oh,
So
so great. I love it. Lisa, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate your generosity of spirit. I so appreciate you sharing all of your lessons. I cannot wait to host you in person at the Simply Business Summit, June 21, 22, and 23 in the gorgeous Byron Bay. So jealous that you get to call that, you know, so close to home, walk on that beautiful beach every morning. If you would like to join us, we still have tickets available. You can get them at simplystacymorgan.com. Lisa, any final words you'd like to leave us with?
no, I just can't wait to see so many people there. I mean, this is my absolute sweet spot. I absolutely love speaking to, you know, women and business owners and anyone with a spark of passion inside of them. So I cannot wait to be there with you.
Perfection. Thank you so much.